Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Growth and Gratitude podcast. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you today. It's something that I care deeply about, and I hope that it's helpful for you. And I'd love for you to just look at this as a one-on-one conversation between the two of us. Maybe you know me, maybe you don't, but just imagine that it's just you and me having a heart-to-heart talk about something that could be really, really transformative for both of us. So let's start with gratitude, as we always do. Think about 3 things that you're grateful for. I'll tell you 3 things I'm grateful for. I'm incredibly grateful for this body, even with all its imperfections and its decades of wear and tear. I am so grateful for this body that carries me through the world. I am secondly so grateful for this mind that allows me to think and process and reframe and to experience my life, because our life really is what we think and how we use our minds. And finally, I am so grateful for, third, all the many teachers in the world who teach me so much every single day. All the authors that I read, all of the mentors in my life who support me, who teach me to grow, and some of the people that I will be mentioning today. I am so grateful for all of my teachers. So now it's your turn. I would like for you to think about 3 things that you are grateful for right here in this moment. And they don't have to be things that are perfect, just things that you recognize as gifts in your life. Now, what are we going to talk about on the growth front today? That's always my second question after gratitude. And what we're going to talk about today is something that comes up a lot in coaching sessions and in my conversations with friends, with family, and that is how to be kinder to yourself. This is so important. I truly cannot imagine anything more important in this moment. As a coach, I see people being so hard on themselves, so self-critical, so judgmental in ways that they would never be toward anyone else. Yes, we can be judgmental about other people, but that cliche that we are our own worst critic is really true from what I see when people have honest conversations with me, and you would be surprised. It does not matter what achievements someone has accomplished in their life. It does not matter what level of business success or external appearances of success in one's life. Almost every person I talk with is so self-critical. And so I really want to help us all to look at how we can be kinder to ourselves. Now, why is it important to be kinder to ourselves? One, to make our own lives better. The amount of energy we expend criticizing ourselves in our mind, indulging in negative self-talk, in setting ourselves up for failure because we've already decided ahead of time that we're not good enough, or at the end of the day, looking back on the day and all of the things that we didn't accomplish instead of the things that we did accomplish. All of this expends so much energy and brings us down and causes our lives to be so much more painful and causes unnecessary suffering. So the first benefit is that it's going to make your life better and easier and more enjoyable. Yes, there is suffering and difficulty in life, but we add to that in ways that sometimes we don't need to. Secondly, when we are kind to ourselves, when we feel self-love, self-compassion, when we're able to forgive ourselves and move through the world being proud of who we are and acknowledging what we are accomplishing rather than constantly beating ourselves up for what we're not doing or what we think we should be doing, then we can be kinder to others. We bring true kindness to the world in general, to our friends, to our colleagues, to our neighbors, to our family members, to everyone in our lives. Think about the kinds of things that you say to yourself in your mind on a regular basis and how cruel they can be. Things that you would never say to your child, to your best friend, to your boss, or someone who reports to you at work. I'm a terrible parent. I'm not a good spouse. I shouldn't have said that. I should have prepared better for this. I need to lose 20 pounds. If only I could make enough money. If only I hadn't made that huge mistake that I made when I was 15. Can you relate to any of these? I can go on and on. What it generally comes down to, the crux of it, let's be honest, is I'm not good enough. What our brain is feeding us is, I'm not good enough, I haven't done enough, someone else out there is better than me. But guess what? Here's a secret I want to let you in on. That someone else that you think is better than you is probably having just as many self-critical negative thoughts as you are. It's a self-perpetuating cycle, a never-ending loop that keeps us in negativity, that keeps us believing things that are not true about ourselves. So let's stop that cycle. Let's interrupt that cycle, okay? So how do we do this? I have a couple of tips for you. I have 3 top tips for you about how we can be kinder to ourselves, but a little bit more about why it's so important to do it. And I just want to quote Pema Chodron, Buddhist nun. I recommend all of her books. I adore her. And one of her quotes is, be kinder to yourself and then let your kindness flood the world. Most of the people who are speaking and writing about how we can be kinder to ourselves are telling us that when we're kinder to ourselves, we can be of such greater service in the world. You find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level. That is Eckhart Tolle. Brene Brown. How many Brene Brown fans out there? I could not possibly recommend more highly her latest book, all of her books. Her latest book, Atlas of the Heart, has been a game changer for me. She says, talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love. She also says we cannot practice compassion with each other if we cannot treat ourselves kindly. Joseph Campbell says, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Jack Kornfield, much loved mindfulness and meditation teacher, tells us, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Kristen Neff says, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. She's telling us that when life is difficult, which it will be at times, why would we want to add to that by being self-critical, by being cruel to ourselves, by telling ourselves all the things we've done wrong? That's the moment we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to have our own back. There are so many scholars teaching us this same message. So let me do 2 more things in this conversation. 1, briefly address why. Why are we so self-critical? Why does our brain have such a strong negativity bias? And why are we constantly having conversation with ourselves all day long in our mind, telling ourselves all the things we're doing wrong, all the ways we're not good enough, all the ways we should be doing better, and we should be more like this person or that person who seems to have it figured out, even though we know deep down they probably don't either? Well, the answer, there are many answers, but the biggest one is very, very simple, and it is our primal brain. You have heard about the reptilian brain, right? The primal brain, the cave brain that wanted to keep us safe. So it had to keep pointing out, there's danger around the corner. There's a tiger outside of the cave. The herd is going to leave you behind if you're not fast enough. That same part of our brain is alive and well and screaming at us all day, every day, to be in fear and to be looking out for danger and to be telling ourselves that we're not doing it right, we're not getting it right, we're not doing enough to keep ourselves safe and keep ourselves alive. That's what's screaming at us. There's no tiger outside the cave. The herd is not going to leave you behind. Your loved ones, if they're good, if you've chosen good, loved ones and friends, and your family relationships are strong, I hope they're not going to leave you behind. They're going to forgive you if you make occasional mistakes. But we have these catastrophizing thoughts and moments where we're just terrified in a way that really is not realistic given whatever the actual situation is. Oh, the presentation I gave at work, it was a bomb. I'm going to get fired. My boss isn't going to support me for the promotion. No, maybe I didn't do as well as I could have. I can learn, I can improve, I can do better next time. So recognizing that it's the primal brain that has this massive negativity bias that's always going to be screaming at you that you're doing everything wrong and there's danger lurking at every turn because it wants to keep you alive. And here's here's the thing about that voice inside our mind. I also highly recommend Michael Singer's book, Untethered Soul, where he talks about the voice in our head. You could call it the ego that's constantly chattering and constantly giving you this self-critical feedback. And he says we can lovingly hear that voice. All of these spiritual teachers and personal growth teachers say we can't shut down that voice. We can lovingly respond to it and say, I hear you. I hear you. You're trying to keep me safe. We don't want to shut it down because that is the same part of our brain that's going to kick into gear when the car in front of us stops and we're going at high speed on the highway and we need to slam on the brakes really quick, and that saves our life. That's the part of our brain that's keeping us safe and that we're not even aware of most of the time, but that's keeping us alive. But it goes into overdrive in these day-to-day situations that really aren't such a big threat, where we really haven't done anything so dangerous and so terrible, but it's just in that mode all of the time. That's why that's one of the many reasons why. You can also go into the culture and social media and advertising and these constant bombardment of messages that we're not good enough, that we need to buy this product or that product or get this face cream or get the newest, style, whatever it is. We're bombarded with messages that we're not good enough. There are so many reasons why this happens. So this is why here are the 3 ways to be kinder to ourselves and to combat this, to push back against it and not allow it to have so much power in our lives and to cause so much pain in our lives. 3 things. 1 is just recognize what I just said. When you hear that voice, say, that voice is not me. That voice is not me. I am something bigger than that. I am whole and perfect and beautiful. If you have spiritual beliefs, by all means, rely on those. If you don't, that's fine too. But you know that deep at your core, you are doing the best you can. You are striving to be a good person, to help other people in the world, to be a good partner, parent, if you are, colleague, neighbor, friend, parent of furry babies, whatever it is that you are doing in this world, you are doing important things in the world. So know that that voice is telling you lies. You don't have to believe it. That's the first step. And be able to separate that ego, that constant chatter, from the real you, which is not that voice. The second recommendation I have is to talk back. Okay, you can call it whatever you like, reframing, positive self-talk, whatever phrase works for you. But you can talk back the real you, the true you, the objective observer, the pure you that is goodness and wholeheartedness and self-love and the love that you give to others so freely, I have no doubt. Talk back with that voice, okay? If that primal brain is screaming, you're going to get fired, you didn't do a good job in the meeting today, can you talk back and say, okay, maybe I didn't say what I would have liked to say, but it's not the end of the world. I'm going to go to my boss and get some feedback. I'm going to prepare for the next meeting better. I'm going to take these steps to make the situation more of what I want it to be. I am good enough. I am doing my best. I did my best. I don't have to be perfect. How can you talk back to that voice, right? I'm a terrible parent. I yelled at my kids. You know what? Most parents yell at their kids. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to go to my kids and be like, hey, I was in a bad mood. I love you. I'm sorry. I will make it right. I will do what I can. I'm not going to beat myself up over something that's in the past that I can't do anything about. And I'm not going to make it mean that I'm a terrible person or a terrible parent or a terrible friend. Oh my gosh, I haven't called Joe in a while. He's probably thinking I'm the worst friend ever. Gosh, I can't believe it. How much energy, how much space do we allow that to take up in our brain? Just text and say, hey, you know what? I haven't reached out in a while, been thinking of you. How are you doing? Do something, or you don't even have to take an action. You can just talk back and tell that voice that it's not as bad as it's telling you and you are a good person. And the third tip is kind of related to that can really, really help. So at the end of the day, I don't know if you're like me, but at the end of the day, sometimes I have a really hard time going to sleep. And my mind is just flooded with thoughts about what I accomplished during the day, what I didn't accomplish, what did I set out to do that I wasn't able to get done? Did I respond to this client? Did I make sure that I checked in with my kids and they have everything they need? Was I a good enough spouse? And asking Neil how his day was and how the things he's working on are going. Just that kind of download of, was I good enough today? Did I do enough today? And it's very, very easy because we're tired and our brain is flooded with so much overload of all the things we want to do and need to do. We don't need to do them, but the things that we're holding ourselves accountable to do, that's the time to actually reflect on all that we did do, not all that we didn't do. So that is a time where we can stop and say, okay, let me congratulate myself. Let me pat myself on the back for all the things I did today. What did I do? I answered 20 emails. I cleaned the house. I made a healthy meal for my kids. I exercised. I texted a friend who I know is struggling with an encouraging message. I finally finished that report at work that I was procrastinating on, or I started that report. I worked on the report for 15 minutes when I've been avoiding it. Nothing is too small. Whatever you did with your day, with your time, it's meaningful, it matters, and it's evidence that you can use to remind yourself that you are doing well and you are doing the best that you can. So be kinder to yourself. I promise you it will make your life better and it will make the lives of everyone around you better. We must start with self-confidence. Louise Hay, the queen of positive affirmations, says this, and this is one of my favorite quotes on this topic, says, remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. There is no evidence that beating up on yourself, that being cruel to yourself, that telling yourself you're doing it all wrong and you didn't do enough is helpful in any way. I promise you. Your brain may be trying to tell you that it's going to keep you safe and make you better, but it doesn't. If you want to be better in some way, if you want to make some improvement, you are much better positioned to do it out of self-love and self-worth, out of knowing that you can do it and that you are perfectly fine and great exactly where you are. And you can also have a goal of doing something differently in your life. So this really is what we've been talking about all along. Growth and gratitude, live in gratitude. That's why I started this off by saying I'm grateful for this body with all its imperfections. I'm 53. I've got a herniated disc. I've got scars. I've got all kinds of challenges. But wow, what a gift that I have this body to move me through the world and to experience life and to eat delicious foods and to hug people I love. My mind, even though sometimes my mind goes places I don't want it to, I can think, I can reframe, I can talk back to that critical, cruel, evil voice that would never speak to anyone else in my life the way it speaks to me. So reframe, remind yourself of all the things you have accomplished. Nothing is too small. Whatever matters to you, whatever you've been able to do in the world, it's enough. You are enough. Please remember that. Talk to you later.